Welcome back. There is urgent need for the youth in the country to seek ways of contributing towards the development of the country rather than heaping woes of the nation on its leadership. This was a consensus set to Gen Voices, a program aimed at grooming a generation of leaders who would bring social, economic and political change. Various youths who spoke at the session today agreed that it is about time the Nigerian youth effects positive change in the society.
Our fatherland.
It's a gathering of youths who've come to rub minds and share ideas on how to create the change they want to see in the nation. Gen Voices Telephone Project has created this platform with a mission to raise a generation of leaders that would bring about change and encourage Nigerian youths to take actions aimed at effecting this change. The youths are drawn from various sectors such as politics, education, entertainment, agriculture, and other sectors of the nation's economy.
The very important thing here that I want to stress is that you should always be able to take criticism. You should always be. I know Nigeria, sometimes we don't even give it at all. We rub your back, we celebrate mediocrity, and sometimes we thrive on that. Now, the last part which I want to stress on when it comes to passion is that passion, talent, and commercial success or commercial sense, I think, is the total ball.
At different stages of the event, various speakers make known their own views on the issues affecting the nation, with the youths demanding major role in government's plan to grow the economy.
To take a second look at our environment, to look at our space that we have accepted for over 50 years called Africa, and to say what kind of components can we change and how do we define our decency, our truth, our justifications going forward. We must first of all begin by accepting where we are. Our continent represents probably the largest single liability you can find anywhere.
But most importantly, they insist that Nigerian youth should begin to take responsibilities and hold government accountable.
We as young Nigerians need to take responsibility. I have listened to my colleagues speak over and over again. Our nation has 80 million square hectares of arable land, and every day we import food.
This is a step in the right direction, many agree, and must be encouraged.
It has started now, please don't stop. I also want to speak with a lot of young people who love to criticize other people who are standing up. If you really cannot join, if you really cannot fight for your future and your children's future, please do not in any way ruin the opportunity for other people. You can stand by the sideline, you can choose not to say anything, but please do not in any way try to quieten the voices of those people who choose to stand up.
No doubt a lot has been said and deliberated upon here in Lagos, Abuja, and all over the world who joined in the conversation. And for the convener, Kola Oyenenyi, it's time to walk the talk.
I thank you for rising up to that ability that you have on the inside of you that tells you that because of the way Nigeria is currently, if we don't do something, then something will happen to us. It is that we have built prosperity and poverty side by side, and when poverty comes calling on prosperity, posterity will be out of the window. So it is important that we understand the urgency of the times, and that is why you have taken this call to do something.
They have all been charged to make a change, but that change can only come if all that has been said here is put into action. Ogichukwu was reporting for Channels Television News.
Well, the message of participation in national development was also reiterated by the older generation. At the same program, Nigeria's former High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Dr. Christopher Kolade, and a former Minister for Education, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, urged Nigerian youth to be the change that they want to see.
Today, in our economy, which are the sectors that are making the greatest, the fastest progress? Telecommunications, IT, oil and gas, banking, yes? Go and look at who is doing the work there. You'll discover it's the young people. So my real problem, I quarrel with young people, is that you don't appear to know or to appreciate your own capacity in this nation. You allow yourselves to be led into thinking that, if you're going to make it, somebody has to let you into the thing. Please remember, nobody who is sitting in a position of influence today is going to let you do it. They will not vacate for you. You have to seize the initiative and do it yourselves. And you know what encourages me? What encourages me is that already in this nation today, the young people are the ones achieving things.
You are a threatened generation. I need you to understand that. That is why you must get involved. Now, how must you engage? How you must engage is that you need to first understand even the tenets of democracy. You have been born into a society that languished under militarization for many decades. And so everything about the country you've been born into is militarized. This was the greatest failure of the government that I was part of. We failed to realize that and to do a natural mobilization that would win our society of the militarization. And so the society continues to assume that the military approach is the approach for solving development needs. It is not. It is a fallacy to think that way. And so you are the generation that would have to start from the very basics of understanding democracy and understanding that the most important office in democracy is not the legislature or the executive or the judiciary. The most important office in a democracy is the office of the citizen.
We're changing lanes now. Global warming is expected to account for about 20% of the global increase in water scarcity this century. It is predicted that global warming will alter precipitation patterns around the world, melt mountain glaciers, and worsen the extremes of drought and floods. Here in Nigeria, the effects of these extreme conditions are already being felt, as our correspondent Ayola Kasim reports.
Water resources management affects almost all aspects of the economy, in particular health, food production and security, domestic water supply and sanitation, energy and industry, and environmental sustainability. Water stress is already high in many parts of Nigeria, making improved management critical to ensuring sustainable development. Adaptation to climate change is closely linked to water resources management and its role in sustainable development. Many experts say to recognize this reality and to respond accordingly presents development opportunities.
We have good water resources in this country, but the nation remains what we call water poor. The water poverty index of the country is about 44.7%. A good country that has abundant water and also make this abundant water available to its people will score 100%. So which means we are not having enough. Less than 47% of Nigerians in the urban area have access to water. There is no city, which is ironic, in this country that can claim is supplying water to its citizenry up to about 40% of the urban population for 24 hours a day.
Nigeria will need to improve and consolidate its water resources management systems and to identify and implement no-regret strategies which have positive development outcomes that are resilient to climate change. Researchers have advised that some of these adaptation strategies can include
the most critical thing for this country is to stop looking at the water systems of Nigeria as different systems and take them as holistic systems. The river Niger is one river. It doesn't matter whether it passes through many states or not.
We need to stop politicizing. There's too much politics in whatever we do in this country, and we need to move away. The world will continue. The world will leave us behind. You see, but the major problem and challenges which I believe we also need to face is that there is a lot of demand on us, on our water, on the way of life, and on this. And until we get things properly done, then we run into problems.
Environmental experts say water must be seen as essential not only for sustaining quality of life, but also for peace building, in which it is better to provide some water for all rather than to provide more for some. Ayola Kasim reporting for Channels Television News.
Now, some of the participants at this year's World Economic Forum on Africa, to be hosted by Nigeria, have been speaking about some of the key issues on the agenda. The country's senior partner of PricewaterhouseCoopers, Mr. Ken Igbokwe, explains that job creation will be a major element of the discussions, as about 63% of youths in West Africa under the age of 25 are unemployed. He said unemployment is a critical issue that must be tackled. On his part, CEO of the African Finance Corporation, Mr. Andrew Ali, is optimistic that Nigeria's economic growth in the last decade could be higher if constraints in all sectors are dealt with.
We have a lot of unemployed youth, and it's not just in Nigeria, in the whole of Africa, and that's creating major social concern. I did some analysis about 6 months ago. Across West Africa, in each country in West Africa, about 63% of the population is under 25. 63% is under 25. And if you bring it home, ask yourself the question, the 25-year-old Nigerian, where is that person likely to be? For those who've been lucky enough to be in school, they're probably just about leaving school. So you just dial back and say to yourself, so what chances does that person have of being employed in Nigeria today? Just to give you an idea of what the problem really is. So you've got these people who are either not properly educated or educated but don't have a job. Okay. Put this together with the theme of the May gathering. I think governments and everybody else in the world recognize that unemployment, especially among the young, is a major problem. If you link that up with what's happening in Ghana, Africa, the sweeping changes in the economic landscape, and the problems that those events have caused, what you're going to see is a nervousness across the globe about Africa. So I think it's timely. But after all said and done, it is the responsibility of government in Nigeria, in the rest of Africa, to do something with the ideas, hopefully, that will come through the discussions.
Nigeria has actually done quite well in terms of economic growth over the last decade or so. But I think that it's important to think about what the constraints are and how to remove those constraints. For example, the growth of the real sector, really one of the major constraints, and this is where, for example, the Africa Finance Corporation that I work for comes in, is around infrastructure. I mean, these statements have been repeated ad nauseum, but you cannot run a business in a country if you do not have steady power, steady water, steady security, if it's hard to take your goods to the market. And those are some of the constraints that are blocking the growth in the real sector. So some of the things that the government here has done, like the reforms that are taking place in the power sector, will have a positive impact.
Well, there will be more discussions at the World Economic Forum, which begins on Wednesday this week in Davos, Switzerland. Channels Television will be there to bring you live highlights of the meeting from our correspondents who are covering the event. It's time to take a closer look, that is, at our health. It is common to see some people seeking financial assistance in the media to sort out different health challenges, especially as it concerns kidney failure. But what are the underlying causes of kidney issues and diseases? Our focus on health this evening takes a closer look at the factors and how to make kidneys work optimally.
Kidney failure or end-stage renal disease appears to be a major issue in Nigeria owing to seeming increase in its incidence. Although accurate data on the prevalence of chronic kidney diseases is lacking owing to the absence of a national renal registry, small-scale community studies put the number of Nigerians with kidney problems at between 19 and 30%. And perhaps the number of patients who make it to dialysis centers in the country may be a sneak preview into the burden of kidney diseases in the country. A consultant nephrologist with the Delta State University Teaching Hospital, Dr. Bemiho Odometa, says the causes are not far-fetched.
Some of the causes of kidney disease include hypertension, diabetes, a kidney infection called chronic glomerulonephritis can also cause it. Then in men who are elderly, prostate. The prostate is enlarged and can cause what we call obstructive uropathy. So there's obstruction of urine flow, and some drugs, NSAIDs, what we call non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen, Feldene, and diclofenac. Some people take them on routine basis. When you do that over a long period of time, it causes severe damage to the kidneys. So when we talk about chronic kidney disease, these are some of the causes. But it's important that we know that there is also what we call an acute kidney injury or acute kidney failure. Okay, that occurs in a short time, and it usually can follow gastroenteritis when someone has severe diarrhea. Okay, someone has sepsis, an overwhelming infection, or with the use of herbal medications. Those can easily cause an acute shutdown of the kidneys.
Every condition has its warning signs, and kidney diseases are no exception.
One of the earlier signs of chronic kidney disease is indefatigability. You have someone who just keep complaining of weakness. I get tired very easily and all that. That is a pointer, okay? Then the other signs include nocturia. It is frequent urination at night. They wake up more than 3-4 times at night to pass large volumes of urine. And also, when one notices that the urine he or she passes is frothy. Frothy simply means it starts foaming. Okay, that is an indication that there are proteins in the urine. Those are some of the early signs you see. But once the condition starts really manifesting, then you can see them coming with facial puffiness. The face will be swollen when they wake up in the morning. But as the day goes by, it regresses. They have leg swellings, okay? Some of them can have persistent vomiting, generalized itching of the body, hiccups, and the rest.
A typical renal patient in Nigeria has a 3 to 5 hour dialysis treatment 3 times per week, with each session of dialysis costing an average of 25,000 naira, a cost much more than the average Nigerian worker can afford. At the moment, very few Nigerian hospitals can do kidney transplant, which is the last resort for kidney failure patients. So, prevention, early detection, and arresting the disease at its onset are key factors.
We preach regular blood pressure monitoring amongst our people, regular urine testing. So if you're hypertensive, what more do you need to do? Regular follow-up with your consultant, and then taking your drugs as much as it's prescribed. Aside from that, there are dietary adjustments, salt. We are beginning to do much more salt in our diet, and we will preach against that. For the diabetics, the same thing. If you're diabetic, most of us don't really know our sugar status. So we really need to form the habit of checking our blood sugar once a year. And if you're diabetic, then you need to see your consultant regularly and then take your medications. The medication part is quite important, because really when chronic kidney disease develops, it is difficult to manage, it is expensive to treat, Okay, and just luckily we are doing kidney transplant, but I can tell you it is also an expensive thing.
The kidneys are two bean-shaped organs located close to the back. Although they're relatively small, the kidneys perform several life-sustaining roles, such as ensuring that the blood circulating in the body is free from harmful organisms, waste and excessive fluid, and maintaining the balance of salt and minerals in the body. Yomi Otaigbe reporting for Channels Television News.
Adeshewa Josh joins us now with business news.
Oh, thank you, Amarachi. Let's take you through our business stories at this hour. The Monetary Policy Committee will meet on Monday, the 20th, and Tuesday, the 21st January, to deliberate and take key monetary policy decisions. The monetary policy environment is said to have become more politically charged with the impending exit of the CBN governor. Based on normal assumptions, economic experts expect that the monetary stance will remain unchanged at 12% or even tighter. The AMCON bonds that have just been redeemed and the need to support the Naira suggest that the CBN will be more hawkish. However, in view of the political tension and the lame duck effect of the outgoing governor, the status quo is expected to be maintained. At its last meeting in November, the committee held interest rates steady at 12%, but warned that factors including the reduction in U.S. monthly monetary stimulus, which many investors had used to buy higher yielding assets such as Nigeria's, may further tighten monetary conditions. Meanwhile, Nigeria's debt market is expected to take its cue from the Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee meeting next week, though yields at the long end of the curve could inch up as local investors opt for treasury bills and offshore interest wanes with the turn in U.S. monetary policy. Traders say bond yields have been climbing since the start of the year, while strong demand from pension funds has brought down treasury bill yields. The Debt Management Office sold 45 billion naira each in 3- and 20-year bonds this week, and yields on both tenors rose from the previous auction in December, when a total of 75 billion naira was on offer. Traders say the higher yields were due to the large amount on offer and absence of offshore investors. And lastly, in business news tonight, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry has released its first quarter 2014 Business Confidence Index. According to a report by the Chamber, the first quarter 2014 aggregate business confidence index shrinks to 11% from 17.6% it posted in Q4 2013. Now, this represents 6.6% point drop of the index over Q1 2013 and Q3 2013. Now, factors such as slower consumer demand, lagged approval of federal budget, political realignments, tight credit conditions, adverse public power supply, and the lingering security challenges largely contributed to the depressed confidence level at this time. Well, there you have it. The News at 10 continues in a moment.
Next on the News at 10, a dark day for African journalism as the BBC's Komla Dumo dies at the age of 41. The story.